al-Qaeda. I just had Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer, who ran the bin Laden program trying to kill him, who was blocked from killing him, pointing out that Anwar al-Awlaki, who's run all the big terror attacks in the U.S., is really a Pentagon double agent, White House agent. Now, that's Colonel Schaefer. You'd think that'd be big news. So break down your view, what's happening, break down the view in Syria of what people think of al-Qaeda.
Okay, so in Syria, everybody knows that al-Qaeda is the CIA. Like, it's really, really common knowledge, you know. You can ask any kid on the street and he'll tell you that. So it's not really like what you just said, though I haven't heard about it. It doesn't surprise me at all, because there's just so much information out there already of people that turned out to be double agents that, you know, were captured and supposed to be part of al-Qaeda. So
yeah, go over that, because I've seen you. You have a great knowledge of it, the history of it, some of the examples proving it's al-Qaeda.
First of all, you have the one of the Libyan rebel leaders. Turns out he was tortured in Guantanamo Bay, and he's part of al-Qaeda. And we all know that NATO and the U.S., you know, they supported the Libyan rebels. So they're you know, one of the big signs now, which is what I mentioned in my video, is that they're actually working with al-Qaeda in these countries that we are seeing insurgency. So Libya was one of them. And in Syria, also, there are videos now coming out of some of the protesters and some of the people in the so-called Free Syrian Army, which is what the insurgents, the name they give themselves, carrying al-Qaeda flags. And these are like widely available on YouTube. You can just search for it and it's there. If I can go on, another big indicator would be Al Jazeera, who's, since the very beginning, was the only station that was able to get video of Osama bin Laden giving speeches, and was the only one that was able to play them, well, or desired to play them. And, you know, whenever we heard about al-Qaeda, it was always from Al Jazeera. You know, they're here, they're there. It was the thing that was promoting them. And who controls Al Jazeera? Well, Qatar, you know, because it's Qatar's state TV.
Who is sending special forces everywhere to try to overthrow Libya, you name it, bringing in al-Qaeda. And I mean, as you're pointing out, that's why Gaddafi knew to try to jam Al Jazeera, because they were beaming in pro-war stuff. It's so obvious.
Yeah, it's very obvious. And it was obvious from the very, very beginning, like 8 years ago, or maybe it was more than 8 years ago, when Al Jazeera even started. You could tell by the way they reported things.
Well, the word is it's total British intelligence, the whole thing.
Yeah, pretty much. Either US or British.
Israeli.
You know, it doesn't really matter, because they're all one entity working, you know, together. Israel and the country Qatar, they're allies. They're allies with the US. You know, they control each other. So it's like one big monster.
That's right. Continuing with al-Qaeda examples from the Syrian perspective.
You know, when you're on the spot, it's difficult to think of them. There's just so many. I'd like to. This is maybe not an al-Qaeda example, but it's a very important example of false flag operations. I'm not sure if anybody remembers, but in Iraq, in Basra, 2 British soldiers, like special forces soldiers, were captured dressed up as Arabs, shooting at Iraqi police, which was by then under the control of the occupation. And they were dressed in black to mimic sort of like the Mahdi army, and their car was filled with explosives. And this was all over the news. And the British army were, you know, the British leadership were so panicked about it that they sent the army in to destroy and level the entire police station. This is a police station that was allied with them, to get these men out, and they did. But you can imagine what they knew and what they were doing, dressed up as Arabs, attacking their supposed allies. So,
well, you're right. In fact, while you're talking, I just typed British soldiers captured in Basra, and it's Global Research, London Independent, BBC, and it's them with their fake Wahhabist beards running around reportedly shooting at soldiers as a pretext to get Shiites and Sunnis killing each other. And that's the goal, as Colonel Schaefer said last hour, is to get a Sunni-Shiite war going. Here it is. SAS defied MOD to rescue 2 of its men held hostage in Iraq. And here's the image of them with their fake beards and all the rest of it captured. And then there's the flaming tank image of the tanks attacking the police station, which was holding the men that had been captured. And there's the photos, the video that they took on some of these sites. It's the images of them with the fake beards. We'll find it and show it to people. But yes, that was a great example. And I even had former top CIA analyst Ray McGovern on, Syrian Girl, at the time. And he pointed out examples where it was confirmed that the Golden Mosque was blown up by Western forces to get the people killing each other. Can you break down that Sunni-Shiite rivalry that the West likes to manipulate?
Sure thing. It's just, divide and conquer. It's just like the old war game, applied to Shias and Sunnis. I mean, you can apply the same thing to Catholics and Protestants. So at the moment, Iran and Lebanon has a Shia-like population, and they form an alliance with Syria, and they could, they have Hezbollah, which is directly opposing Israel. So on the one hand, they are enemies of the Shia, and then you have the Palestinians who are Sunni, who are also fighting Israel. So on the other hand, they're against the Israelis are against the Sunnis as well. So in Iraq, the Americans allied themselves with a lot of the Shia, although there were a lot of Sunni collaborators as well. That should be noted. But they wanted to get the Shia in power over the Sunnis because it was beneficial for them. It was a way in. And they got muscled out by the Iranians, but that's another story. But around the Middle East, it is mostly the Sunni majority countries, which are in the Gulf Arab region and in North Africa, not the Levant region where... I was saying that the al-Qaeda, it's purported to be a Sunni organization, but not exactly Sunni. It's something worse, like more extreme, called Salafi, and or Wahhabi is another extreme sect that they're very similar. So in the same time, the majority Sunni theocratic countries like Saudi Arabia and Qatar and the Gulf Arab states are actually allies with the US. So it's a really complicated mess. But when whatever country, the US doesn't care which side it plays, whether it plays Shias and gives them power against Sunnis or gives Sunnis power against Shia. At the end of the day, they want to divide everybody and get everybody fighting. And I think sometimes they're succeeding, but not in all cases.
By the way, I did find the BBC article, Iraq probe into soldier incident, and it's got them with the guns, hand grenades, fake wigs, out reportedly attacking Basra police. And there was other cases of U.S. forces being attacked by guys dressed up in bin Laden outfits. This is full-spectrum dominance. You've got to manufacture the war so people really believe al-Qaeda exists. And if you got to dress up special forces to get the job done and attack the Shiites to get them killing Sunnis, well, by golly, you do it. And just incredible. And then the Iraqis were holding them. This is our supposed allies saying, look, they were attacking. We're going to have a trial. So they just had the British troops attack the base, kill a bunch of Iraqi troops that were trained by the British to get them out of there. Syrian Girl joins us. Syrian Girl, what is the feeling of people in Syria? I mean, this is an invasion. This is proxy armies, Arab fighters, the ones that were in Libya being brought in to invade your country. This is part of the proxy wars. They admit that they've got military paid off, defecting over to try to overthrow the country. And then I guess bring these purges in. They're saying they're going to kill minority groups of Muslims that are part of smaller sects. They're also saying they're going to force the Christians out of Syria. How do you think the West is going to be able to sell this to the public when they do what they've done in your country, the same thing they've done in Libya?
Our people are not going to buy it because our people have a very long memory, and we remember what happened, and we won't forget what they're doing now. So, you know, I don't need to tell you that they're not buying it because you can see it yourself. You know, it's been 12 months now. There haven't been any mass, you know, rallies. There haven't been any support for this foreign, armed, funded, and even oftentimes the men themselves are foreign. There's just no support for it. So, you know, this has nothing to do with whether or not they agree with the government or not. People who oppose the government know what's going on. So I don't see them selling it to Syrians at all. For me, I can't see them having any way forward unless they attack, unless they do as they're saying, which is to get NATO and have a no-fly zone or an invasion. And how are they going to do that when Russia's not going to let them? I don't see a way forward for them.
Continue.
Okay. In terms of Syrians and how we feel, we're both afraid and excited. I know that once the war starts, I know where I'm going to be. And, you know, we're ready to defend our land to the end. And we think that Israel better not think that it's going to be left out of that global war. It's, you know, it's going to be directly in the line of fire. If Syria is going, then so are they. Our enemies are numerous, but we also have some very good friends. So Syria is not going down without a fight. That's what I'd like to be known.
What about the Russian fleet that's docked there at your port? What about the fact that Russia says, well, they vetoed the UN attack, and so now they're saying, well, we'll go ahead, and now the UN's saying they'll go ahead and get behind it and not even follow the rules. I mean, this is crazy, a major escalation.
You mean NATO, yeah?
Yes.
I think that for Russia, Syria is a red line. And that's because they're based in Tartus. Their naval base is one of their last positions in the Middle East, and their last defense against Europe and Turkey's missile defense treaty. So for Russia, it's very important to maintain their relationship with Syria and not have Syria be taken over, yet, you know, be another one to fall to the US and NATO sphere of influence. So if Russia's not going to back down, and if they're going to disobey the rules, the only foreseeable conclusion to that would be World War III. I certainly don't doubt that they're prepared for it and that they will do it, you know.
We're doing 4 or 5 more minutes with Syrian Girl. Obviously want to have her back up in the near future. She's very informed, very articulate. And we're also going to try to get some other guests on, journalists who've been going to Syria, just like we did with what happened in Libya. Tarpley went over to Syria a while back. And we're going to get him back on about that. But undoubtedly, this is a proxy war. And what is your view of Assad? I mean, again, how popular is he really? And what do you expect to happen if the proxy war continues, if the love bomb bombardment, the trendy, illegal peace bombing begins? by NATO, I mean, now saying they can't even get the UN resolution, so just go ahead. I mean, first Obama said I'll attack Libya with a UN resolution, not Congress. Now they can't even get the UN. I mean, this is so lawless. This is preemptive war through proxies. Imagine a foreign country coming and stirring up groups to attack us over the border and then calling them freedom fighters and then calling it protest when people are militarily attacking.
Well, first of all, I want to say the road to hell is paved in good intentions. And the most annoying people are the ones that think that they're helping us out by supporting these insurgents that are bombing, forcing people from their homes. As far as my opinion on the government, I will get to it. But more importantly, I want to discuss, Syria as a whole.
Okay, we got 5 minutes left. I'm giving you the floor then. Syria as a whole, and then Assad. Any other points you want to make? Because this is, riveting information.
Okay, thank you. Syria as a whole. How can I tell you statistics, percentages? I can't. I can only tell you that the vast majority of the country, in spite of how they feel about the government, do not want this NATO-led insurgency to take over, because not only are they going to be puppets of the West, not only are they going to destroy the country in the process of doing so, they're also not democratic. They are a theocratic, sectarian, Islamic movement that want to control and destroy our secular way of life. And Syrians do not agree with this. You can see that by the way that they're acting. I can tell you that, the majority of Syrians went out and voted for our new constitution, which opens up the way for new political parties and for future elections. So the majority of people are for the reform process, and the new constitution is already in place. You can split Syria up into three, I guess. There are people who support Bashar. They think that he is our, savior. He's going to deliver us from this, that are, have been core Baathists, which is the ideology of the party from the beginning. And there's people who are newly, supporting Bashar because they want him to make the reform process happen. Then there's people who oppose the government because of corruption and things that have happened in the past, and they're also not going to side with Israel, our enemies, nor NATO. And then, okay, this is 4, not 3, so maybe I can't count. But finally, there's a minority of people who have been sold the lie, just like the Iraqi collaborators were sold the lie that the U.S. is this liberator, it's fantastic, they're so humanitarian, they're going to come and save everybody. And, this is the way to get power and the way to get freedom, whatever that, means to them, is by allying with the U.S. Now, I think that is such naivety and opportunism, and it's just disgusting to the core, and I cannot call these people Syrian. So if you want, by my definition of what is Syrian, 100% of us oppose NATO and this attack against our country.
Well, that's right. It's going to be, I mean, look, Iran, 70+% don't like the mullahs, but every analyst says an attack on Iran will unify the entire population behind the mullahs. That's how people work. And now that your country is clearly being attacked with proxy armies, NATO's saying we're going to drop bombs on you because it's humanitarian. When we give weapons to people blowing up buildings, they're peaceful protesters. When the government fights it, they're evil. Al-Qaeda's good, Syria's bad. I mean, all of this is so ridiculous that it's going to unify Syria. I mean, I don't need to be Syrian to know that.
I just wanted to say, in answer to your question earlier about how people might contact me, I have a Twitter. The name is Partisan Girl. And of course, they might have seen other interviews I've done on YouTube channel 108 Morris 108.
Okay, and again, give us the Twitter. It's twitter.com/.
Partisan Girl, no spaces.
Partisan Girl. That's awesome, and we'll send a link up to my Twitter, the Real Alex Jones, twitter.com/Real Alex Jones. So that's good for people to be able to contact you there, and hopefully things don't continue to unfold in Syria in a bad, but it looks like that is going to happen. So I'd like to be able to have you pop in and give your perspective as this unfolds.
Anytime.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add in about 60 seconds?
About Bashar
yes.
Assad.
Yes.
His father, you know, he might have been, whatever you might want to call what happened. You know, people have different opinions, but Bashar, from the beginning, has been more of a reformer. However, there's an old guard in Syria that have prevented him from undertaking much of the reforms that he wanted to make. But at least now, with the support of the people, hopefully the reform process is going to happen.
What is your personal, so you see overall he's been a reformer trying to change an old system, and certainly, you know, it's not going to get better. Look at Egypt. It's gotten 10 times worse, and they've got women having to wear the headdresses and everything now since it was liberated, and it's just incredible. All right, well, Syrian Girl, thank you for having the courage to speak out. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Well, you're going to be hearing more from her now that she's been on our show. A very interesting perspective, and that's what we try to...